Today's patron of the day is that Polish guy. Thank you for being a patron. If you would like to enter my patron of the day drawing, or want to watch exclusive videos, or even request a video topic, go to patreon.com/ASMRGeographica. Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be going over the history and geography of Cape Verde. But first we need to talk about its name because, as you can see here, it's labeled as Cabo Verde. So the name thing has been kind of an issue, kind of not. Apparently the people who live on these islands prefer people to use Cabo Verde, but where I live in America, it's still officially referred to as Cape Verde. And also I've heard it pronounced Cape Verde. I think it's one of those things that depends where you live in the world, how it should be pronounced, kind of like aluminum and aluminium, things like that. So I'm going to go with what it's, I suppose, officially known as in America, Cape Verde, but I believe that just either way of pronouncing is considered fine, like people understand what you're talking about. So with that out of the way, Cape Verde, as you can see, is an island chain. The islands are off the coast of West Africa, nearest to like Senegal and the Gambia. Cape Verde has 10 main islands in 2 island groups. The first one is this one up here. It's known as the Barlovento Islands. The Barlovento Islands are Santo Antão, São Vicente, a very tiny one here of Santa Luzia, São Nicolau, Sal, and Boa Vista. And then down here in the south, this group here is the Sotavento Islands, and they are Maio, Santiago, Fogo, and Brava. There are lots of other tiny little islands, as you can see there, but those are technically like the main islands of the country. The largest island you can see here is Santiago. It is also the most populated, and it's where the capital city of Praia is located. The other islands are either, you can see like the cities and towns along the coast there, especially on São Nicolau. It's the next most populous island over here. But there are some islands that have very low populations, and Santa Luzia over here does not have a population. It's a nature reserve, so nobody technically lives there. We can also separate the islands into 2 different island types. These 3 right here are very different from the rest in that these 3 are very sandy, very flat. They even have like salt flats on them as well. And that's because they're the closest to Africa, and they are affected by the Harmattan winds that blow off the Sahel. And the rest of the islands don't really get affected by it because it's stopped by these islands. The other islands are very lush and green, and they're also mostly made of volcanic rock. So if you've ever handled volcanic rock before, it's very jagged, very rocky rocks. And speaking of volcanoes, the highest point is here on Fogo. It is Pico de Fogo, and it is a very large, very active volcano. It last erupted in 2014, and it has like a definite, like, I call them cartoon volcanoes because they just look like a volcano you'd see in a cartoon. But the other islands are very, very beautiful and lush. They're mostly known for tourism because they're so beautiful. It's a gorgeous island chain. I can't stress enough how beautiful it is. And I always say that places are so beautiful, but this is a good one. It's so gorgeous. So the history of Cape Verde is an interesting one. It's one of those few countries in the world that was totally uninhabited until it was discovered by European explorers. It's believed that some African peoples knew about the islands, could have possibly landed on them, but there wasn't any kind of settlement or permanent living on these islands until the Europeans came around. So they were discovered around 1456. There's lots of little islands, so it's kind of hard to determine which one would have been considered like the first of the islands. The explorers that found them were mainly Genoese and Portuguese. There are many different people who are credited with discovering the islands, but the one who gets the most notoriety is Diogo Gomez. There's even a big statue of him in the capital city here of Praia. Yeah, he's like the main figurehead of the explorers that discovered the island. In 1462, the Portuguese decided to create a settlement, and it would be this city right here. It's now known as Cidade Velha right here, and it became the capital of the colony. And what it was mostly used for was the slave trade. It was a stopping off point for European ships to trade for slaves coming from Africa. That was its main function for a very long time, very sadly. And the islands were situated in a perfect place since there is so much trading and commerce going on that it attracted a lot of pirates. The most notable to arrive and actually ransack the capital was Sir Francis Drake in 1585. It got so bad that the capital city was relocated to Praia in 1770 because it was just constantly being attacked and ransacked. And Praia is up on a higher plateau, so it's easier to spot ships coming, easier to defend. So that's why Praia is the capital city today. As the slave trade decreased over time, the industry changed. It was still an important stopover for traders and also explorers who were setting out to explore the Western Hemisphere. In America, we call it a truck stop because when you're driving across America, especially like Central America, like Kansas, Oklahoma, there's nothing for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles. And then you hit a truck stop, or a road stop, I suppose, but a truck stop is better because it has all the gas you need, it has restrooms, it has snacks, it has restaurants, it has fast food, refreshment, shade, a place to stretch your legs. Cape Verde was that kind of place back in the day when everyone traveled by ship across the sea. It was a place to restock your ship, relax for a few days before setting out across the Atlantic Ocean. And that was its main purpose. There was also some growing. Sugarcane was planted there, but it wasn't as economically viable as other parts of the world. And the people who lived here was growing more and more restless. And nationalistic ideas started to spring up. And the Portuguese did not like that. But they refused to really listen to them and offer them any kind of political control over their own land. But in 1951, Portugal declared it an overseas province to try to, I suppose, make them feel more included in Portugal, but it didn't really work. In 1956, the African Party for the Independence of Guinea and Cape Verde was formed. It was led by Amilcar Cabral. So Portugal also controlled an area of Africa just slightly southwest of the islands. It was known as Portuguese Guinea. So the people of these two lands came together and decided to create an independence movement. And it started off as just like a clandestine organization. By 1961, it turned into an armed rebellion. it eventually turned into a full-out war over in Guinea against the Portuguese. And they wound up winning their independence in 1974, which coincidentally was the year that the Portuguese dictator was overthrown in a coup in place of a democracy. So when Guinea fought and won their independence, Cape Verde was kind of left out of the loop, and they asked the new government, so can we get independent now? And they were granted it, and Cape Verde officially became independent on July 5th, 1975. Cape Verde and what was now Guinea-Bissau were hoping to combine into one country, but there was a coup over in Guinea-Bissau in 1980, which kind of ruined their hope for unification. The party I mentioned before, because it was for Guinea and Cape Verde, wound up splitting in two. It just became like an independence of Cape Verde party. And ever since independence, the country was ran as a one-party state. Technically, their leader was a dictator in the barest definition of what a dictator is. By 1990, people were getting kind of tired of a one-party state and started to protest in favor of democracy. And their government, in my opinion, did the right thing by saying, sure, let's, meet up, have a big meeting and decide what to do. And they decided to have multiple parties. And they held their first free election in 1991. And politically, things have gone very smooth ever since then. The last president, Jorge Carlos Fonseca, was elected in 2011. He was re-elected in 2016. It's a 5-year term, which means there is an election later this year in 2021. We'll see how it goes, but Cape Verde, in a nutshell, is one of the better off African countries at the moment. Their government is very transparent and democratically free. Rights are allowed for people. It's just a very democratically fair and peaceful country. Their economy is doing well. 2020 hurt everybody, but in countries like Cape Verde, where it relies on tourism, it hits them twice as hard. But these beaches aren't going anywhere for now. Climate change might change that someday, but for now they're still there. So they're such gorgeous islands. Looking at these islands really made me want to go to a beach. And for the rest of the month, we're going to do a couple more island nations, which are also just as beautiful. So if you're not subscribed, you can do so anytime. We're going to head over to South America for a bit. I really hope that you'll join me on that little adventure. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational. Sorry it was a short one, but they have a short history. And I hope, above all, that you have a very good